Welcome back to my channel. My name is Riama, and today we're steering into a slightly different direction. Recently, I was introduced to the concept of Filipino lost media, and I thought it was interesting. So today, we're diving into something truly fascinating: the lost media of the Philippines. From long-forgotten TV commercials to rare film footage and many more, Filipino lost media is an untold treasure trove of culture and history. But what makes it so interesting? Why should we care about these pieces of media that have seemingly vanished into thin air? Well, let's just say there's a whole world of untapped stories and hidden gems waiting to be uncovered. So, grab your popcorn and let's explore why Filipino lost media is not just interesting. It's essential to understanding a rich, dynamic part of our cultural heritage. Let's get started. The Lost Animal Rights PSA commercial. This commercial, which aired sometime in the late 1980s or early 1990s, shocked the Filipino public by showing graphic violence against an animal in order to highlight the cruelty animals face, particularly in the context of local cultural practices and mistreatment. The ad became infamous due to its brutality, which was intended to shock viewers into paying attention to animal welfare issues. The commercial depicts a dog being placed in a sack of rice, where it's shown to be beaten severely. The visual of a defenseless dog trapped in a sack while being violently beaten was highly disturbing for audiences. The PSA aimed to raise awareness about animal cruelty, particularly in the context of how dogs were treated in the country at the time. While the act of cruelty in the commercial was meant to be fictionalized, the ad highlighted real-world issues such as dog fighting, animal abuse, and the treatment of animals in certain cultural practices. While the commercial successfully gained attention, it was heavily criticized by many for being too graphic and disturbing for a public service announcement. After airing for a short period, the commercial was pulled from circulation. Due to its intense imagery, the ad faced significant public outcry and legal challenges. Many people who recall seeing it have vivid memories of the disturbing nature of the ad, but most of these accounts are secondhand or anecdotal. Some have described hearing about the commercial from older family members, friends, or colleagues who remember the backlash and the controversy it caused. Currently, there are no verified public sources or official archives that confirm the existence of a surviving copy of this commercial. The Tupperware Party. This one's a bit more personal and anecdotal when it comes to being a lost media. It all began in the early 1970s in the posh neighborhood of New Manila, Quezon City. Back then, Tupperware wasn't the household name as it is today. It was still a novelty, sold through home demonstrations by ambitious saleswomen looking to make a living. One such saleswoman received an invitation to showcase her Tupperware products at a grand mansion on Broadway Avenue, an area known for its wealthy, influential residents. The invitation itself was enough to excite her. This could be her big break. She arrived at the mansion, greeted by an old caretaker who ushered her inside. While waiting, she noticed something odd. Magazines from the 1930s stacked on a table. It was strange, but she brushed it off. Moments later, a group of well-dressed men and women descended the stairs, but their clothes were old-fashioned, almost from another time, and they all wore shades of gray as if trapped in the past. Despite the strange appearance of the guests, the saleswoman carried on with her Tupperware presentation. To her delight, they placed multiple orders. The meeting shifted into a warm social gathering, with food, wine, and music filling the air. She had a good time and politely declined an offer to stay longer. Days later, she returned to deliver the orders, only to find the mansion locked and eerily silent. A neighbor approached, and when the saleswoman recounted her experience, the neighbor went pale. The names she had mentioned, those of the clients she had met, were all prominent figures, but the chilling revelation came next. These people had been dead for decades, some even before the Second World War. The clients she had spoken to, laughed with, and shared a drink with, they were all probably ghosts, phantoms from the past. Batman fights Dracula. Batman fights Dracula? Wait, Batman and Dracula together? Sounds epic, right? Well, this Filipino movie from the 80s is part of the lost media history, and it's been vanishing ever since its release. Released in 1989, Batman Fights Dracula was a low-budget Filipino action film that blended the iconic superhero with the famous vampire. But it wasn't officially part of the DC universe. Produced by the Philippine Seiko Films, it featured Batman battling the legendary Dracula, and it was packed with campy action, horror, and tons of bizarre, over-the-top moments. The film was only shown briefly in local theaters and never made it to VHS, DVD, or streaming platforms. After a short run, the film disappeared. Some people believe copies were even deliberately pulled from circulation, possibly due to copyright issues, but no one really knows for sure. So why does Batman Fights Dracula matter? For one, it's a crossover event that never got its chance to shine. Imagine the caped crusader facing off with a classic monster, and then toss in Filipino filmmaking flair, which often mixes campy and serious tones. Plus, it's just another example of how much pop culture history has disappeared over time. Despite its obscurity, fans are still trying to track it down. Some believe a few rare tapes might be hiding out there. But until then, the film remains a fascinating piece of Filipino pop culture that's lost to time. Encarnacion Chavez commercial. You've probably never heard of it. Or you have. But this ad is a part of a forgotten chapter in Filipino advertising, and the mystery behind it is just wild. The Encarnacion Chavez commercial is one of the most famous pieces of lost media in Filipino television history. The ad was a flower shop commercial that aired in the 1980s, and it left a deep, lasting impression on audiences due to its emotional tone and hauntingly beautiful jingle and eerie imagery.
From Encarnacion Chavez.
The song, with its gentle, mournful tune, playing a pivotal role in making the commercial memorable and creepy to many viewers. The soft vocals, combined with the slow pace of the music, created an emotional, almost ghostly atmosphere, which, coupled with the visuals of flowers and Sita Astal's detached expressions, gave it an unsettling feel. The melody, while soft and gentle, has an eerie quality that lingers long after the commercial ends. For many, the tune evokes a sense of nostalgia, but a feeling of something a bit off, almost like a lullaby gone wrong. The song in the Encarnacion Chavez flower shop commercial is Bilang Pag-ibig. This song is widely remembered for its haunting melody, which contributed to the eerie and emotional atmosphere of the commercial. It's a piece of lost media that carries a sense of nostalgia and discomfort, making it a perfect example of how even an innocuous advertisement can leave an emotional imprint, one that lingers long after it fades from public memory. In short, the Encarnacion Chavez flower shop commercial became creepy because it was an ad that wasn't quite like other ads. It wasn't just selling flowers, it was evoking something deeper, darker, and more emotional than expected. The Lost Filipino Movie about San Lorenzo Ruiz. The Lost Filipino movie about the life of San Lorenzo Ruiz, the first Filipino saint, is an intriguing case of forgotten cinema. While there are films and documentaries about the life of San Lorenzo Ruiz, there seems to be a particular Filipino movie based on his life that has become a part of lost media lore. San Lorenzo Ruiz is a revered figure in Philippine history and Catholicism. Born in Binondo, Manila, he became a missionary and was eventually martyred in Japan for refusing to renounce his Catholic faith. His canonization as the first Filipino saint in 1987 has inspired several films, documentaries, and dramatizations of his life. This lost film was focused on the life and martyrdom of San Lorenzo Ruiz. It depicted his early life in Manila, his missionary work in Japan, and the events leading to his execution for his unwavering faith. The movie emphasized sacrifice, devotion, and faith, mirroring the themes of suffering and perseverance found in religious films of that time. This film, entitled Lorenzo Ruiz, the Saint, a Filipino, starred Matt Ranillo III, was released in 1988 and was directed by Maria Saret. There may be some old VHS tapes or film reels of the movie in private collections. This is common for films that weren't widely distributed or weren't commercially successful, but were still culturally important for niche audiences. These copies may be held by religious communities, Filipino families, or collectors of vintage media. Lorenzo Ruiz, the Saint, a Filipino, is a lost gem of Filipino cinema, and its disappearance speaks to the broader challenges of preserving Filipino films from the 1980s and earlier. The movie's religious themes, limited release, and lack of archiving have led to its current inaccessibility. However, it's given importance in celebrating the first Filipino saint. The search for any surviving copies or efforts to digitize it may still be a future endeavor for Filipino film historians or archival communities. This is just a few of the many lost media in the Philippines. I will turn this into a series, so please stay tuned for part 2. I appreciate you sticking around with me. I'll catch you all in the next one. If you know of any more lost media in the Philippines you want me to cover, please comment down below and I will include it in part 2. While you're at it, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Bye.